Hello and welcome to this general election debate for Congressional District 3. This debate is sponsored by Clean Elections, the state's nonpartisan voter education agency. My name is Richard Rellis and I'll be moderating today's debate. Thanks to a partnership with the Clean Elections Commission, the Arizona Media Association, and Bitfire Studios, we're working to make sure these 2024 debates are the most accessible in Arizona history. This conversation will air on a long list of local TV stations, radio stations, and digital platforms, including support from local newspapers. The format's a little different today. We're hosting a 30-minute one-on-one discussion with the one candidate who has agreed to participate. Democratic candidate Yasmin Ansari has not accepted our invitation. So we're welcoming Republican congressional candidate Jeff Zink, who we'll introduce in a moment. Transparency is critical here. That's why this conversation has been designed with input from a broad group of journalists in Arizona representing urban and rural communities. We want to let you know, though, that the candidate has not been given advanced access to any of the questions. Now, with that, let's introduce the Republican congressional candidate, Jeff Zink. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Well, thanks, Richard, for having me.
And to start, I mean, you'll have the whole time, but to start, you'll have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the fact that Clean Elections is actually doing this. People need to know what candidates stand for. The fact that Yasmin has decided not to be here sends a message that's loud and clear that she's not interested in what you think, what you want, or anything about you. I do. I've been walking the streets in Phoenix, Arizona, talking to good people and knowing that we have an issue and a problem that's taking place in our country and in Arizona. We need to sit down and have real candidates that will come and address these issues, do this in a manner that is acceptable to the people, not acceptable to me, myself. This is something that people are tired of not having or having somebody take a stance. I'm willing to take a stance, and any questions that are there, you're going to get a clear answer and understanding of where I stand. Whether you agree with me or disagree, you'll know exactly what I stand for. And as a person that in Phoenix that lives in my district, one's very important to understand that I take the experience of being in sports medicine for over 38 years, being a pastor for over 28 of those years, that I'm going to bring biblical principles and constitutional principles to Washington, D.C. that will be addressing the needs of the people in Phoenix, Arizona, in CD3. So it's important that as we tackle all of these issues that we're going to go over, that I talk to you loud and clear and actually so that people understand where I stand.
Thank you so much. And I guess one opportunity we get under this format that we might not under a formal debate is a bit of your biography. If you could sketch us out a bit of what voters might want to know about you as a person.
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Texas, the Texas Panhandle. I ended up playing football as well through high school and college. Went to Texas Tech University. Graduated with a degree in kinesiology. Then went on to my postgraduates for both exercise science and then also sports medicine. Like I said, I spent 38 years in sports medicine. And I got to learn a lot about taking care of the individual, which I can translate very quickly into taking care of the people here in Arizona, especially in CD3.
I have to ask about the hat. You're from Texas, but that hat, how long has the hat been your signature?
My gosh, pretty much all my life. I've worn a cowboy hat all my life, even at Texas Tech, even at playing in high school and going to school. I had a cowboy hat, so the boots and the belt buckle and everything. I also worked on the 4-6 ranch as a ranch hand, taking care of the fence lines and stuff as a kid growing up. So the thing is that being responsible for horses and stuff, I've been responsible and working hard all my life.
The hat and the cattle. Well, let's get to the issues.
All right.
On the economy, on your website, previous comments, you've said that inflation has been caused by runaway government spending. Economists now report it's come down. What do you credit the drop in inflation to?
Well, part of it is because it's artificially inflated by our government. They're actually controlling this to an extent, but they can't do it enough to change. What we have to do is we have to do things like go back to drilling. We're going to have to lower gas prices. Under Donald J. Trump, we had gas prices that were $1.89. That translates to lower food prices, and we need to make sure that we go back to that. The question that Ronald Reagan asked, and we asked today, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And across the board, my families that I represent, they're saying that they're not better off.
Well, 4 years ago, we were in lockdown for the pandemic. Does that weigh into your calculation at all?
Part of that is the fact that if you freeze an economy the way they did, the thing is that government should have never closed down our economy. We have the greatest economy. I referred back to World War II, where Yonemoto had stated that when they bombed Pearl Harbor, they had either woken a sleeping giant or they crippled a nation. They didn't cripple this nation, they woke the sleeping giant, and we have the best workers in the world that can do industrial aspects to put people back to work and start having American-made products instead of China products.
Was this the right time for the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates?
I think it's a political move more than anything else. The thing that bothers me is that we have used politics in trying to influence and change the people's minds and not actually being truthful and honest. We need to sit down and we need to be a lot more transparent. If we go back to drilling and we go back to being exporter of our oil and gas, this is something that will actually affect our economy and the inflation, and it's not going to be artificially moved in one way or the other. It will come down because of the productivity of the great American people and the Arizona people.
You've talked that the money that the U.S. is sending to Ukraine to fend off the Russian invasion is misdirected, that money should be better spent at home. Is there an ally of the United States who you would support sending aid to if attacked?
Absolutely. The American people. That's our ally. That's who we need to take care of. We need to sit down. We have now had a hurricane that took place, and the federal government is not able to send any money. They've stated that there's no money to take care of the people with this hurricane. Well, where did the money go? If you hadn't have sent that to Ukraine, the billions of dollars, we would have money that we could take care of our people. We need to stop taking care of other people in other countries. We need to take care of Americans first and make sure in Arizonans so that we are able to uplift and be strong enough as a strong nation. Then out of our goodness and what is provided for us, we can help others. But doing what we're doing right now with this government, that the spending has taken place, we need to readdress the Federal Reserve and how things are going. We need to go back to the 1913 where we're having the bonds placed and people can buy bonds. And if you don't like it, you don't buy the bond. And so it doesn't, not successful. This blank check and forcing the American people to pay it has got to stop.
And just to clarify, you're saying FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is not involved in storm relief coverage?
Well, they are, but they don't have the money right now to cover and to take care of the people. We have people that are isolated, and there's no funds to actually get to them to give them gas, food, or anything else to see if they're okay. We need to have those funds available. And the problem that we're having is that we've spent all this money overseas to other countries, and now we don't have it to take care of our own.
Does that extend to your thoughts on U.S. support for Israel?
For Israel, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we do take care of Israel. Israel's a different situation in and of itself. As a pastor, I will tell you that those that bless Israel, that country will be blessed. If you curse Israel, you'll be cursed. The thing that bothers me more than anything else is the support of the Palestinians out of this government, and how they rejected the Israelis. We need to make sure that that policy stays in place. We need to understand biblically what takes place. And our Constitution and our government is solely designed on biblical principles. So all of that needs to be taken into consideration.
And I guess since you brought it up in your opening statement and just now, one of the constitutional principles is also freedom of religion.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe the country is founded on biblical principles, how do you have religious freedom for those who may not agree with the New Testament and the Old Testament?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things that a lot of my Christians disagree with is the fact that I said that I would actually defend the Church of Satan, the exact opposite of what I believe in. See, the thing is that while I, as a pastor, I adamantly disagree, but our Constitution says very clearly that it's freedom of religion, that you will actually practice your faith depending on whatever that faith is. And I will defend that. Even though I adamantly disagree with it, our Constitution upholds the freedom of religion, and we've got to make sure that our First Amendment is intact.
On immigration, what does, to you, a secure border look like?
One is that we need to finish the wall. If we look at the money that was sent over to Ukraine, we could have built the wall 6 times over. We need to sit down and we need to address this issue of taking care of this. And fentanyl, the drugs that's coming over, we're having, I don't know if you remember, but when we were kids growing up, they had the amount of casualties in the Vietnam War, and they would flash that up every day. If we flashed every day the amount of kids and adults that are dying of fentanyl poisoning and everything else, it would rival what was taking place in Vietnam on a daily basis. We need to address this, and we need to secure this and close it down to drugs, to human trafficking, to child trafficking. This all needs to stop. Yet, one of the things that all of my families tell me is that I have family in Mexico. I want to be able to go to Mexico, see my family, and come back and not be hindered. That still is a secure border, but they still are able to go back and forth. This is the great thing about having a free society here in America. We have to have it where we can go back and forth without hindrance. But those that are illegally coming in, we need to either deport them or we need to incarcerate them, especially when we're having military-age men that are being released from prisons of other countries and released into our country. That has to stop.
You believe that there are countries that are purposefully, as President Trump has said, sending their criminals and directing them into the United States?
Absolutely. In fact, if you go and you look in Venezuela, the crime rate there has dropped almost 40%. And the reason why they attribute that to is because they drained all of the jails there and took all of their hardened criminals, put them on a bus and sent them here and dumped them off. And we've also had multiple planes where they're flying them into different ones. We're not actually having them cross their southern border. We're actually having them get on planes, and our government is complicit in actually flying them to all of the different cities and dumping them off in those cities.
Yeah, some of those immigrants from Haiti, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela are coming in under President Biden's humanitarian parole program. Do you consider those people legal immigrants or illegal immigrants?
No, they're not. They're not legal immigrants. We need to sit down and we need to stop what's taking place. The thing is that understanding that while America is one of the richest countries in the world and one of the richest countries that the world has ever seen, we only have so much to give. And the problem that we're seeing now is that we have spent all this money. Now we've had a hurricane. And now we don't have the funds to actually spend to take care of our people. So the thing is about using other people's money, it's really good until you run out of other people's money.
Again, on immigration, President Trump has talked about in a second term would would have a mass deportation. Is that something you support? What effect do you think it would have on the economy?
And the fact is that we need to look at the individuals. We do have some people that are coming over that, especially our women and our children. We need to make sure that we protect them. That's not being done. The cartel are actually trafficking them, and they're spending anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 a person being brought over here. And then the way that they make sure that they pay the cartel is that they keep their families locked in their other country. And that's one of the things that we've got to stop. We've got to make sure that this stops. So. Understanding that if you are a criminal from another nation, then you're going to be deported instantly. We're not going to have you here and stay in our country. If you're a female that has been trafficked or a child that has been trafficked and caught up and the circumstances there, we need to look at that and make sure deportation may not be the answer, but we're going to have to look at each individual.
Okay. Moving on, your website, well, I guess it's not quite moving on, but your website does contain a section discussing equal rights and a just and inclusive society. Mm-hmm. Is the current discussion around immigration, including some of the stories shared by former President Trump, reflective of that inclusivity and that need to have a just society?
Well, we need justice for sure. We need to make sure that we follow the rule of law. The thing that a lot of people in the left always takes offense of, and they keep saying, we're in a democracy. This is not a democracy. This is a constitutional republic. And under that, we follow the rule of law, not the rule of mob rule, and we don't follow the color of law. We have to sit down and we have to look at, and we need to have law and order. So we need to increase police, sheriffs, and make sure that they have the funds to actually hire more and more people. Our Phoenix Police Department is down 3,800 police officers. Our Sheriff's Department for Maricopa County is down 2,400. We're going to have a massive hiring, and in that we have to train them to make sure that we don't have discrimination, that we're not having lawsuits where just because the color of your skin, you're driving someplace and being stopped. That has to stop. We need to make sure. So if we raise the salaries of those individuals, then we can have more competition, just like in sports. You have more competition, the cream rises to the top, you get the best people. Well, that's what we need to have in our law enforcement, is the best people at those higher prices, at salaries, so that we can sit down and actually get good people to work with the people they're supposed to protect and serve.
Moving on to elections, are there federal laws you think need to be imposed to improve ballot integrity?
Oh, so I'm one of the foremost leading authorities in election integrity. I have done 9 audits in the United States. I've done Arizona twice, Texas, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Colorado, and Oregon. In all of those, we have found where there are a massive amount of fraud that has taken place. We have proven that there are dead voters, that we have had disenfranchised. We just recently in the last 2 days where our Secretary of State, Governor, and our Attorney General all were on a conversation that stated that they're worried about the 98,000 voters that could possibly be disenfranchised, and we need to sit down and we need to address this. This are some serious issues of what's taking place. We need full transparency. We need to have early voting and not a season of voting. We can't have this 3 or 4 months of voting and stuff where fraud takes place. We need to cut out run back. Where we actually proved that there were ballots that were injected at that point. We had 9,000 more ballots came in than what went out.
What election are we talking about?
This was in 2020.
And you're saying that was proven in court?
Yes.
And what happened to that case?
Well, actually, it got thrown out and said that we, the people, didn't have standing at the time. It went to to an appeals court. It was then resent back down. And then again, a judicial system did not do the rule of law, they did the color of law. So we're sitting here looking at all of this evidence we have in the Abe Hamadeh's case, where we had 7,000 disenfranchised voters that had 2 addresses, one maybe in Payson, one here in Phoenix. Now in Phoenix during the winter, they're going to come out of the mountains. They're going to come out where it's a lot warmer here. And all of a sudden they go to vote and they find out that their registration had been moved to Payson, and then they didn't have the time to drive there to vote, so they were disenfranchised. We proved that in Abe Hamadeh's case.
And you don't think those were just people forgetting that they failed to register or re-register?
No, they had not. We had affidavits from all of them under under the penalty of perjury that stated that I did not alter or change, and I was not aware of this. And so actually, we submitted those affidavits, and yet it went on deaf ears when it came to the court.
And I guess your belief about the 2020 election also explains why you traveled to the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021.
Absolutely.
What did you expect to happen on that trip?
Okay, so one of the things when I went, I literally thought that we were going to have a constitutional election. And I've stated this over and over. A constitutional election means that neither one of the candidates would have reached the 270 magic number for the Electoral College, which means that if you go to a constitutional...
But how would that have happened on January 6th? You think they wouldn't have counted some of the ballots?
So when Arizona objected to the Electoral College, we had Georgia was also going to do this. We had Michigan, we had Minnesota, we had Nevada there. That would have been the 5 states that would have not allowed either one of them to have the 270 electoral votes.
When you traveled there, did you expect to witness that, or did you expect to help that along?
No, I went there just to witness it. And the thing is that when I looked at it, I really seriously thought that we were going to see this constitutional election happen that has never happened in history. I wanted to be there in Washington, D.C. when history was being made. Problem is that we had some people that were nefarious. But here's the other thing. And what I will tell you is this: we have CIA, we have FBI, federal informants and agents that were on the ground at that time that actually instigated and did things. We've actually had this. And one of the things as a J6er and what I've been doing with the J6 community is fighting for them tooth and nail. We have corrupt federal judges and prosecutors that are absolutely going against the Constitution and the rule of law and incarcerating people that should not be incarcerated. And the sentencing is far greater than those on the opposite side, and we have evidence of that. And what we're going to be doing is going to the appellate courts and to the Supreme Court with all of these.
Do you think, being on the ground, was Vice President Mike Pence or other lawmakers in danger? Had people gotten to them?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. The group that I had, we were praying, we were singing hymns, we were there, we were under a permit, we were allowed to be there. And what's really interesting is this: my son, who was convicted, of the 1512C2, which is the felony, was overturned by the Supreme Court and said you can't apply that. And so it was dropped. The other two, the 1517...
he was convicted of 2 misdemeanors, right?
He was convicted of 2 misdemeanors.
The felonies were dropped because of the Supreme Court ruling.
Supreme Court ruling. However, because of the lies that were told by Mike Brown, the federal agent, literally lied and said that my son entered into the Capitol, fought with Capitol Police, and killed Brian Sitnick. When he went to trial, all of those charges were dropped. None of that was there. So when we made the motion, then we had Judge Boasberg make the statement that my son was guilty of a crime, we just have to have the trial. Then we had 4 federal agents lie and perjure themselves, and how I can say that now is because we have the video evidence that's going to his appeal
Right. We'll see what happens with the appeal.
With that, exactly.
Lastly, much of the political prognosticators have already slotted this seat as a safe run for Democrats. Do you see a path for victory, and what keeps you going? We talked about knocking on doors in the summer. What keeps you going in this campaign?
Absolutely. The thing is that let me direct this solely to my Latino population. That's 64% in my congressional district. You are Catholic and you are Christian. You need to vote your faith. As a pastor, I will tell you that this country is based on the foundation that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. Our Savior is not Donald J. Trump. I will tell you that that's not the person that's going to save us. We already have that. But what I will tell you is that we have a party that is a party of death. They want to kill children from conception all the way up to 28 days or 27 days after it's been born. They call it a choice. I call it a child. We need to sit down and we need to have people who are going to be bold and going to say that we're going to bring a nation back to the foot of the cross, that Jesus Christ died once and for all sins. And if you accept Him, then you'll spend eternity in heaven. This is what I will be preaching every day that I'm there in Washington, D.C. I want us to go back to our foundation of what our Constitution was all about and what has happened. This is what's important, and this is what we have to have.
Although that sounded like a closing statement, it is now time for your official closing statement. So you have 1 minute.
1 minute. So the thing is that we need to understand that the gap between Yasmin Asari and myself is this. We have one who wants to do demise and destruction. We have one that wants to make sure that we have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We need to make sure that what we do in Congress does matter, and it matters for all people. We need to make sure that we have a representation of all the people here, and that won't be with her, that will be with me. Thing is the bottom line is this. Christ is overall the one that resides and is in this country. We need to have somebody that's willing to be brave enough and bold enough to actually make that statement. And I am that candidate. So if you want, go to thinkzink.vote. That's thinkzink.vote. Look at my website, and I appreciate the time that y'all have given me.
Thanks for that's all the time we have for our conversation with Jeff Zink, Republican candidate for Congressional District 3. As a reminder, Arizona's general election is on Tuesday, November 5th. Early voting starts Wednesday, October 9th. Head to azmedia.org to see a list of upcoming debates and where you can find them on TV, radio, and digital platforms. For the full debate schedule and to submit questions for future debates, head to azcleanelections.gov. On behalf of our partners at Clean Elections, the Arizona Media Association, Reister, and Bitfire Studios, thanks for joining us.